In 1983, Kuompa, after refusal, was connected to something called a Nimba raid, which I felt was unfortunate. It was a very silly action taken by a majority of Nimba people, some people in the military. Most of the participants were from Nimba, even the civilian participants who were linked. You know, like the late DK Wanseli and Doki and all of these people were from Nimba. I don't understand the political motive. Why attack in Nimba? Was it to take Nimba and then declare independent as a Nimba Republic or what? I just couldn't understand. And like I say, I was president of the Nimba Student Association, but I just felt strongly against military rule and did not make friends with any of them, did not associate with them at all. It is my understanding that some Nimba people may have told Kuompa not to take the position as secretary. What the rumors I heard that time was that in fact Doe and Kuompa had talked and Kuompa had accepted the position before Doe wrote the letter, and then so when he said, later on said he was not accepting the position, that was dishonoring his military duty to a superior officer. That was also a betrayal after meeting with a friend. And then that led to other people going into exile, and Kuompa himself, because of this decision not being part of PRC and not obeying the chairman's decision and going against his own statement that the PRC should speak with one voice to the chairman and that he was there to instill discipline, everybody should obey the chairman. Himself, having gone against the chairman, was guilty of a mutiny in a way. So this is what led him to exile. People were arrested, tried. People were arrested, they remained in jail, and then Doe declared amnesty. And then 1985 elections came. After the elections, before the elections, before 1985 elections, let me go back a little bit. In 1984, I was a founding member of the Liberian People's Party, along with James Fomoyan, Dr. Sawyer as organizing chairman, the Lewo Tapia, Mr. Anthony Kessley, Dr. Wilokoli, a whole bunch of them, former Moja members and former SUP members. We formed LPP, and then Doe said that all who wanted to contest political position in the ensuing election should resign. Dr. Sawyer, as chairman of the organizing committee of LPP, gave a press conference, I think it was a Holiday Inn hotel, and said Doe must begin with himself because he had announced that he was going to run. That was a fair statement. But Decree 88A was still in place. I believe Decree 2A had not been repealed. Decree 2A said that banned all political activities, including student political activities and all of that. And I think then student Verde will know that in 1982, some students were arrested and detained, some student leaders, Alari Chokwa and the rest of them, for defying the PRC and going ahead with student political activities. So Sawyer was arrested, detained. Dr. Wilokoli took over as acting chairman, and Dr. Wilokoli, me and Anthony Kessley and Emmanuel Nsingbe wrote a strong statement of the party condemning the arrest of Dr. Sawyer and other political issues. Dr. Wilokoli and Anthony Kessley were charged with violation of Decree 88A. Order arrested. Kessley went into hiding somewhere in Lofa. Dr. Wilokoli was more pronounced. Doe knew him personally. He was a teacher I think he was a teacher at Marcus Garvey school that Doe was attending, a nice school. He had been an assistant minister in government, and so he was well known. Kensley was only a student and obscure. So Justice Wilukoli was arrested because he signed the release, even though we authored it. And he was put in jail. Then Saye was in jail. The students demonstrated. On August 22nd, the Interim National Assembly, of which Honorable Commissioner was a member, I believe, INA, though appearing before the INA, ordered that the students be moved and removed. Reading here, I was not a student then. I had graduated in 81 and 82. I was a teaching assistant, and I was teaching on the university campus. And on August 22nd, the comptroller has said that we will take pay at 3 o'clock. So I came, I was in a research institute with Dr. Brother Baker Azango. I was a teaching assistant in the economics department. I just walked out there to meet Dr. Brother Baker Azango. And past 3, we heard shooting all over university campus. So I said, well, in Africa, people will not touch an old lady. So Dr. Brother Baker Azango, having me with gray hair and elderly, I grabbed her hand and said, we'll walk out of the campus. I thought by holding her hand, nothing will happen to me. We got out right under the plum tree by the cottage. They grabbed her hand and started to beat her. Then I gave her on myself. They started beating her profusely. I said, stop, this is an elderly lady. And they wouldn't stop. Bunch of soldiers, they were using bitter root and not even rotten to beat her. Big stamp. So I was trying to walk out of the campus towards St. Patrick's. I got in front of the cottage and I came across a group headed by the late Colonel Alfred Saye. He was a member of the PRC, and he raked me to the ground and they stripped me. They took off my shirt, my trousers, and I only had brief on. I was very, very tiny. As Dr. Saye told me a few years ago in America that this man is fat. I was very, very tiny. So lying under the soldiers and beating those who were hiding in the buildings said I had been killed. That is the news they carry around. Because the blood gushing off from my head. And I managed to walk and get outside the university campus. It's true that they were raping women, because I saw a lady who was a secretary in Liberia College being raped right by the top of the monument. And just a reflex action, I yelled, stop! And on the light side, I saw a soldier running, coming after me. Stop, stop, hot! With one foot of my shoes, and said I should give the other foot of my shoes, because when they had stripped me earlier, they had taken one foot of my shoes. And actually, he was stopping me to take one foot of my shoes, so he took the other one and left. So someone took shirts, someone took trousers, someone took my pair of shoes. I walked, I was naked going. When I got behind St. Patrick's, there used to be a road, and a group of women brought their lapa and tied around me. Later I was taken to SD Cooper Clinic, and I was treated, and the doctor said I could spend the night. Somehow I just said I don't want to spend the night here. I was told that 30 minutes to an hour later, the other injured people who had been taken to the hospital were rounded up and taken to shuffling. I didn't see that, but I was told. Then I left. When I left, I went up country. And then when we resumed school, after school reopened, I was told to check the president's office. I went to the president's office. The PRC had removed the entire university leadership. And I must say that I strongly believe that it was the decision of the PRC following the August 22nd incident that got the university the way it is today, because I think it was a coup against scholarship and intellectualism. Not only there was the university president and vice presidents removed, the deans of colleges and heads of academic programs were all removed and replaced by people who are now going through the rigor of climbing the academic ladder. So Dr. Joseph Morris, who was, I think, Deputy Minister of Education, was appointed president of the university, and the students opposed it. I went to his office and he handed me a letter of dismissal. And I said, wow, I'm not even a full staff of the university, I'm just a teaching assistant. I'm not even an instructor. Why dismiss me? He said, my son, he bent his head and said, my son, He bowed his head, embarrassed, and said, "Look, I'm acting upon instructions of the PRC." I left. I later heard that James Fomoyan, also a teaching assistant in political science department, was dismissed. We were the only two teaching assistants dismissed. And I think I can only link it to the fact that we were members of the organizing committee of LPP, whose leader had been arrested, that led to the crisis. Then that was 1984. 1985 came, elections took place. People strongly believe that that Lab won, Jackson Doe won. And the reason is this. During the election period, I remember Lab had trained poll watchers, and they were trained by Dosto locally. They were deployed all over the country, and the results were actually counted at the polling stations, and they all came back with the tabulations. And so the party knew that they had won, and the party knew they had won. But then, those set up a 50-man commission to count the ballots. And I think if you have time, honorable commissioners, you need to call one or two members of that special commission that was set up to count the ballots. I remember that Emmanuel Shaw was a member. I remember a lady called Zozili. There were 50, and some are in Liberia here. Let them tell us what they tabulated. While the 50-man committee was counting, Mr. Prince Johnson was lieutenant in the AFL, and here I was living behind the City Hall, and he used to tell me every day that his old man Jackson Doe had won. I said, "Look, this is politics. Don't be too sure." And so when on November 12th, he told him, "Oh, my chief, Colonel Sharp told me that they have burned so many ballots, but the old man still won." I said, "Don't be sure. I don't have that kind of expectation." So when they announced the result, he was totally confused. So when on April 12th, that morning, I was in law school, when Kuopa and others hit town, that evening watching TV, I saw Prince Johnson on the television at LBS, next to Kuopa, talking, going up and down and talking. I said, well, I expected this man to be a part of this. It was after that we didn't see Prince Johnson anymore behind the City Hall. He went into exile. So that was what I know about 1985. Of course, everyone knows, you've heard the stories of how people were killed.